In the city of Douala, in the heart of the Makapi neighborhood, everyone knew Pastor Samuel and his wife Esther. Their church, the Revival Chapel, had started in a small space squeezed between a fabric shop and a hair salon. The walls were cracked. The tin roof let rain in during services. But people came anyway, because Pastor Samuel had something different. His voice carried, his prayers touched hearts, and his wife Esther, always seated in the front row, was his silent pillar. They were called the Blessed Couple. Their love wasn't the kind you shout from the rooftops. No, it was a quiet love, a love of prayers at dawn, when the city was still asleep, of shared fasts during difficult times, of knowing glances after service when the faithful left and they arranged the plastic chairs together. Esther had sacrificed a lot for this man. She had left her job as a secretary to dedicate herself to the church. She had given up her dreams to support her husband's ministry. She cooked for spiritual retreats. She counseled the women of the church. She prayed for the sick. And she was highly respected by the church members and the entire neighborhood. Years passed. The church grew. The small space became too cramped. So they rented a larger hall near the Ange Raphael intersection. The pews filled every Sunday. The offerings increased. Testimonies of miracles multiplied. God had truly blessed them. Among the faithful, there was a young woman. Her name was Miriam. She was 23 years old, a gentle face, eyes that never looked too long. She spoke little, but when she spoke, it was always with respect. Miriam came from a village near Bafoussam. She had arrived in Douala at an aunt's house who had thrown her out after 6 months. Without family, without work, without money, she had found refuge in the church. She arrived first, even before the guard opened the doors. She left last, after sweeping, arranging the Bibles, turning off the fans. She carried Mama Esther's bag, her Bible. She accompanied her to the market. She helped her cook. She watched their 2 children when the couple had meetings. She called Esther Mama, and Esther called her my daughter. One day, the pastoral couple offered her a small salary for her services. Miriam lowered her eyes, clasped her hands, and said softly, "No, Mama, I can't accept. I do all this for God. It's my way of thanking Him for everything He has done in my life, and of giving back to you for everything you do for me." Esther was touched. So was the pastor. And they trusted her. They trusted her like you trust a daughter of the house. They gave her the keys. They confided secrets to her. They let her into the intimacy of their home. No one was suspicious. No one. Years continued to pass. God blessed the couple again. Pastor Samuel was invited to preach in other cities, Yaoundé, Bafoussam, even Libreville. His name circulated. His reputation grew. People spoke of him as an anointed man, a true servant of God. The couple was finally financially stable. They bought a new house, left their small 2-room apartment for a villa in the Log-Basso neighborhood. White tiles, air-conditioned living room, garden with mango trees, a sign of success. Proof, the faithful said, that God rewards those who serve Him. But Miriam still had nowhere to go. She slept sometimes at a church sister's house, sometimes in the sacristy. She never complained. She always smiled. So, out of kindness, Esther suggested to her husband, "Let's leave her our old apartment. She has no one, and she has helped us so much." The pastor agreed. "It's temporary," said Esther, "until she finds something. She's a serious girl," added the pastor. "She deserves our help." Miriam cried with gratitude. She fell to her knees before them and said, "May God bless you. I will never forget what you are doing for me." And she moved into the apartment. At first, everything seemed normal. The pastor would sometimes stop by to check that everything was fine. He would call Miriam to pray with her on the phone. Just prayers, just spiritual advice, just a spiritual father watching over his daughter in the faith. But little by little, something changed. The visits became more frequent. The pastor would stop by briefly after meetings. He would stay an hour, then 2, then 3. He would tell Esther, "I'm going to pray with Miriam. She's going through a difficult time." Esther didn't ask questions. She trusted in her husband, in God. In this girl, she considered her own child. In reality, the pastor had nothing to hide from his wife because there was no hidden intention behind these visits. Prayer became a habit. Habit became closeness. Closeness became intimacy. And intimacy, a fall. As they say in Africa, a wolf and a lamb cannot live together. In other words, it's not wise for a man and a woman to be alone and isolated for long periods. Neither the pastor nor the young woman had planned anything. Spending so much time together created a natural attraction between them. That's why the Bible tells us to flee temptation, not to resist it. No one saw it coming, or maybe some did, but chose to remain silent. Esther began to sense the change. Her husband came home late, very late. He said he had meetings, pastoral visits, spiritual emergencies, but his gaze had changed. He was there, but absent, present, but distant. His phone never left his hand. He even took it to the bathroom. He put it on silent during meals. The neighbors began to whisper. The faithful began to murmur. A woman from the church slipped a word to Esther one day. "Mama Pastor, people are saying things about your husband and Miriam. Be careful." Esther smiled and replied, "People always talk. My husband is a man of God." But that night, alone in her room, she cried. She asked her husband the question, once, just once. "Samuel, tell me the truth. Is something going on with Miriam?" The pastor looked her straight in the eyes, calmly, coldly. "Esther, those are lies. Attacks from the devil against our ministry. You know who I am. You know I am a man of God." She wanted to believe. Because she had loved this man for 15 years. Because she had built everything with him. Because she prayed every night for her home. Because she didn't want everything to collapse. So she kept quiet. She swallowed her doubts. She buried her questions. She continued to smile at church, to sing praises, to raise her hands during prayer. But deep inside, something had broken, and the truth never sleeps for long. One morning, everything collapsed. Miriam was sick. The church members informed the pastor's wife. Esther took her car and brought her to the emergency room for medical care. While she waited in the waiting room, the doctor came out of the consultation room and asked her, "Are you family?" Esther replied, "Yes, she's my daughter." "Congratulations, madam. You will soon have a grandson. Your daughter is pregnant." "Pregnant?" asked Esther. "Yes, madam," said the doctor. Then he gave advice on how to care for her during her pregnancy. Esther's world collapsed, but she pretended. A question came to her mind. Who could the father be? She brought Miriam back to their villa and asked her about the paternity. Miriam didn't answer. She started crying. Esther picked up the phone and called her husband. "Come home quickly, there's an emergency." When the pastor arrived, his wife said, "Try to talk to Miriam. I'm asking her who the father is, but she won't talk. It's a disgrace for the church." The pastor jumped. "What? She's pregnant?" Immediately, he turned to Miriam. "Why didn't you tell me before?" His wife found this question suspicious. "Tell you? Why should she have told you?" The pastor remained calm. Miriam fell to her knees, sobbing. "Forgive me, Mama. I never meant to hurt you, but I don't know what happened to us." Miriam was pregnant. By her husband, by the pastor, by the man who prayed every Sunday at the altar, by the man who laid hands on the sick, by the man who preached faithfulness, holiness, the fear of God. That day, Esther didn't scream. She didn't even cry. Not right away. She sat in her living room. She stared at the white wall in front of her. And she understood something terrible, something she would never forget. The most painful betrayal doesn't come from the enemy. It doesn't come from those who hate you. It comes from those to whom you opened your door. Those to whom you gave a roof, trust, a heart. It comes from those you called family. The silence in the living room was unbearable. Esther looked at her husband, then at Miriam, then at her husband again. She waited. She waited for him to deny it, to get angry, to say it was impossible, to throw this girl out of their house. But Pastor Samuel said nothing. He stood there, arms at his sides, eyes fixed on the floor. And that silence was a confession. Esther felt her legs tremble. She leaned against the wall. Her voice came out weak, almost extinguished. "Samuel, tell me it's not true." The pastor finally raised his eyes, wet eyes, guilty eyes. "Esther, I'm sorry. I don't know how it happened. I swear I never wanted this." Those words hit Esther like a slap. She stepped back, then another step. She put her hand on her chest, as if her heart was going to stop. 15 years, Samuel. 15 years of marriage. 15 years of sacrifice. And this is how you thank me? Miriam was still sobbing on her knees. "Mama, forgive me. I beg you. I didn't want to destroy your home. I don't know what came over me." Esther looked at her with a mixture of pain and disgust. "Never call me Mama again. You've lost that right." She turned to her husband. "And you. You who preach holiness every Sunday. You who lay hands on people. You who tell men to respect their wives. Look what you've done." The pastor fell to his knees too. "Esther, please, don't destroy our family. Think of the children. Think of the church. We can settle this privately. No one needs to know." Esther let out a bitter laugh. "No one needs to know. The whole neighborhood is already whispering. The faithful are murmuring. And you want us to pretend? For me to keep smiling at church while your mistress carries your child?" She shook her head. "No, Samuel. This time, it's over." She went up to their bedroom, took a suitcase, and started packing her things. The pastor followed her, panicked. "Esther, what are you doing? Where are you going?" "Far from you. Far from this house. Far from this lie." "And the children?" Esther stopped. Her 2 children, David, 12 years old, and Ruth, 9 years old. They were at school. They didn't know anything yet. "I'll come back for them, but I won't spend another night under the same roof as you." She closed the suitcase, went down the stairs, and left without looking back. Miriam was still on her knees in the living room, her face flooded with tears. The pastor collapsed on the couch, his head in his hands. The house that had been filled with prayers and praises was now filled with silence and shame. The news spread like wildfire. In Africa, secrets never stay secret for long, especially when they concern a man of God. The faithful of the Revival Chapel were in shock. Some refused to believe. Others said they had always had doubts. The church elders met urgently. The following Sunday, Pastor Samuel didn't go up to the altar. An elder spoke and simply announced, "Pastor Samuel is going through a difficult time. Let us pray for him and his family." But everyone knew. The pews that were full every Sunday began to empty. The offerings decreased. The people who said God is with this couple now said, "You can't trust anyone." The church that had taken years to build was collapsing in a few weeks. Esther moved in with her older sister in the Bonamusadi neighborhood. She barely ate. She barely slept. She spent her nights crying and praying. "Lord, why me? What did I do to deserve this? I gave everything for this man. I sacrificed everything for this church. And this is how I'm rewarded? Her sister tried to console her. Esther, you did nothing wrong. He's the one who sinned. Don't carry his shame. But Esther felt humiliated, betrayed, broken. She had given the best years of her life to a man who had cheated on her with a girl she had treated like her own child. How do you recover from such a betrayal? Weeks passed. Miriam gave birth to a baby boy. She named him Emmanuel. Pastor Samuel acknowledged the child. He had no choice. Everyone knew. He tried several times to contact Esther. He sent her messages. He called her. He went to her sister's house. But Esther refused to see him. One day, he managed to talk to her on the phone. Esther, I beg you, come back home. I made a terrible mistake, but I still love you. We can rebuild our family. We can overcome this together. Esther was silent for a long moment. Then she said, Samuel, you destroyed my trust. You destroyed my heart. You destroyed everything we had built together. How do you expect me to come back? I'll do whatever it takes. I'll go to counseling. I'll leave the ministry if I have to, but don't leave me. Esther sighed. The problem, Samuel, isn't what you're willing to do now. It's what you've already done. Every time I look at you, I'll see her face. Every time you touch me, I'll think of her. How can I live with that? The pastor cried on the phone. Esther, I'm so sorry. So am I, Samuel. So am I. She hung up. 6 months passed. Esther filed for divorce. The pastor didn't oppose it. He knew he had lost everything. The revival chapel closed its doors. The faithful had scattered to other churches. The building that had been filled with songs and prayers was now empty and silent. Pastor Samuel left Douala. He went to live in a small village near Kribi, far from the stairs, far from the whispers, far from the shame. Miriam stayed in Douala with her son. She still lived in the couple's old apartment. But she no longer went to church. She couldn't look anyone in the face anymore. And Esther? Esther took time to recover. A lot of time. But she recovered. She went back to her job as a secretary. She took care of her children. She started smiling again, slowly, little by little. One day, a friend asked her, Esther, how did you overcome all this? Esther thought for a moment, then replied, I understood something. The betrayal of men doesn't change God's faithfulness. Samuel betrayed me. Miriam betrayed me. But God never abandoned me. He carried me through my darkest moments. He gave me the strength to get back up. She paused. And I also understood that you have to forgive. Not for them, but for yourself. Resentment is a poison you drink hoping the other person dies. I chose to let go. I chose to live. 5 years later, Esther was sitting on the terrace of her new house in the Bonanjo neighborhood. A small, modest house, but hers, bought with her own savings, with her own sweat. She watched the sun set over the city of Douala, the sounds of traffic in the distance, children playing in the street, life going on. David was now 17. He was preparing for his baccalaureate. Ruth was 14. She dreamed of becoming a doctor. They had grown up. They had understood. They had forgiven their father, but they had chosen to stay with their mother. Esther smiled watching them do their homework in the living room. She had survived. No, she had done more than survive. She had rebuilt. One evening, her phone rang. An unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Hello? Esther. It's me, Samuel. Her heart stopped for a second. She hadn't heard that voice in 3 years. Samuel, what do you want? I just wanted to talk to you. To know how you're doing. How the children are. Esther was silent for a moment. The children are fine. They're growing up. They're happy. And you? Me too, Samuel. I'm fine. There was a long silence on the phone. Then the pastor's voice, weaker, more broken. Esther, I know I have no right to ask you anything, but I wanted to tell you, I'm sorry. Really sorry. Not just for what I did, but for everything I made you lose. Your trust, your dignity, your dreams. Esther felt her eyes water, but she didn't cry. Samuel, it took me a long time to heal. A very long time. There were nights when I wanted to die, days when I saw no meaning in my life anymore. You broke me in a way you can't even imagine. I know, and I will carry this guilt until I die. But I chose to forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve to be free. Hatred is a prison, Samuel, and I decided to get out. The pastor cried on the phone. Thank you, Esther. Thank you. How is the child? Emmanuel? He's 5 now. He's growing well. Miriam takes care of him. And you and Miriam? No, we're not together. We never really were. What happened between us? It wasn't love. It was a mistake. A terrible mistake. Esther nodded, even though he couldn't see her. Samuel, I wish you peace. Sincerely. But our story is over. We can't go back. I know. I just wanted to hear your voice one last time, and to say thank you. Thank you for being the best wife I could have had. I didn't deserve it. Goodbye, Samuel. Goodbye, Esther. She hung up, and for the first time in 5 years, she felt the last weight on her heart lift away. A few months later, Esther received an unexpected visit. She opened the door and found Miriam standing there. Miriam had changed. She had lost weight. Her eyes were dark-circled. She was holding a little boy in her arms, Emmanuel. Mama, Esther, I know I have no right to be here, but I beg you, hear me out. Esther looked at her for a long time. This girl she had loved like her own child. This girl who had betrayed her. Come in, she said simply. Miriam sat in the living room, little Emmanuel on her lap. Mama Esther, I came to ask for your forgiveness. I know what I did is unforgivable. I destroyed your family. I destroyed your life. I betrayed your trust. She started crying. For 5 years, I've lived with this guilt. I can't sleep. I can't look at myself in the mirror. Every time I see my son, I think of you. I think of all the harm I caused you. Esther listened in silence. I'm not asking you to take me back into your life. I know that's impossible, but I'm just asking you to forgive me, so I can finally breathe, so I can finally live. Esther looked at little Emmanuel, an innocent child, a child who had asked for nothing, a child who already carried the weight of his parents' mistakes. She stood up, approached Miriam, and placed her hand on her shoulder. Miriam, what you did destroyed me. You know that. I had opened my house, my heart, my life to you, and you trampled on everything. Miriam sobbed harder. But I refused to live in hatred. I learned that forgiveness is not a gift you give to others. It's a gift you give to yourself. So yes, Miriam, I forgive you. Miriam looked up, incredulous. You forgive me? Yes, but forgiveness doesn't mean everything goes back to the way it was. We will never be what we were, but I release you from my anger, and I release myself from yours. Miriam fell to her knees and hugged Esther's legs. Thank you, Mama. Thank you. Esther gently lifted her up. Now go, raise your son, become a better woman, and never make this mistake again. Miriam nodded, took her son, and left. Esther closed the door and leaned against the wall. She had forgiven, and she was finally free. Before ending this story, there is a lesson we must all remember. What happened between Pastor Samuel and Miriam was not an accident. It was the result of carelessness. In Africa, our elders used to say, "You don't put fire and straw in the same hut." This wisdom is as old as the world, yet we continue to ignore it. A man and a woman who are not a couple should never be alone, isolated, for long periods. Regardless of intentions, regardless of spirituality, regardless of titles or positions, Pastor Samuel didn't plan to fall. Neither did Miriam. But by being alone together, by praying together late at night, by sharing intimate moments, an attraction developed. A natural, human, but dangerous attraction. The Bible doesn't tell us to resist temptation. It tells us to flee from it. Joseph didn't try to reason with Potiphar's wife. He ran. He fled. Because he knew that against certain temptations, the only victory is flight. If you are married, protect your marriage. Don't be alone with someone of the opposite sex who is not your spouse. Not in a car. Not in a closed office. Not in an empty house. If you are a pastor, imam, priest, or spiritual leader, be even more vigilant. Your position gives you access to others' vulnerability. Don't turn that trust into an opportunity for a fall. If you are single, respect other people's homes. Don't be the instrument of a family's destruction. Temptation doesn't send a warning. It doesn't knock on the door. It settles in quietly, gradually, until it's too late. So be wise. Set boundaries. Flee dangerous situations. Because it's better to flee and be called a coward than to fall and destroy lives. This story is coming to an end. But before you go, let me tell you something. This story is not just about Esther, Samuel, and Miriam. It might be your story, or the story of someone you know. Betrayal exists. It's part of life. It sometimes comes from those we love most, from those we trusted most. But betrayal doesn't have to define your life. You can fall. You can be broken. You can cry for nights on end. But you can also get back up. Forgiveness is not weakness. It's strength. It's the choice not to let the pain of the past poison your future. And to those who betray, remember that every action has consequences. You can destroy in an instant what took years to build. Trust is fragile. Once broken, it never fully repairs. Whether you are Esther, Samuel, or Miriam in your own story, know this. It's never too late to change. It's never too late to ask for forgiveness. It's never too late to get back up. Life goes on. And as long as there is life, there is hope.